The CEX app is a valuable tool whenever you visit a CEX store for the very first time, as it gives you an idea of what to expect, but not the condition of the game in question. But one of the best features of the app is the stock alert, and this time we have an absolute stock alert win. Welcome to my continuing mission to visit every CEX store in the entire world. From the weird to the wonderful, the big to the small, I am here to visit them all. This is the crazy world of CEX. Hello again, folks, and welcome back to the crazy world of CEX, my continuing adventure to try and visit every single CEX store in the entire world. And every time when I'm visiting a new CEX store, I always like to check to see what games they have in stock just before my visit, because it gives me a rough idea of what I'm going to look for when I go to the store. And in this episode, this really pays off, as I head to my local CEX store at the end of this episode, as is tradition, and find a PS3 game which is never in stock. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday night at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. And if you want to go above and beyond to support the channel even more, please consider joining me over on Patreon. It's only £1 a month. You get bonus videos, giveaways, exclusive deals, as well as my CEX store checker, where I will post at the start of the week which CEX stores I'm visiting, and if there's something you want checked, I'll go there and check it for you. Here we are then, back on the road for the crazy world of CEX, and our first stop this time is Oxford. Now, I've looked on the CEX app and there looks to be some really interesting games in here, including a really good selection of retro, but the only way to find out the condition of this retro is of course to go to the store and check. So fingers crossed it's in good, complete condition. Straight to the glass cabinet of dreams, and let's see what we have in stock here at Oxford. And straight away there's some good quality retro here for the Sega Saturn, the SNES and the Mega Drive, and this looks to be in really nice condition, and honestly when you go to CEX you love to see it. But that's not all for the retro. We also have a small selection of Dreamcast, some PlayStation 2 heavy hitters, some controllers, some consoles including the lovely bright pink PlayStation 2, a large selection of Mega Drive games even though most of these were without manual, and a little stack here of PlayStation 1 games. This is half the problem with CEX now. It seems more than often games are coming without the manual. Oxford also had a pretty massive selection of unboxed cartridges and a lot of N64 games, and especially at the moment it seems in CEX you can get unboxed N64 games very cheap. This game tried to hide from me, but I saw it hiding in the back there. Batman Returns for the Mega CD. I've been looking for this one for a very long while, but unfortunately, alas, this time once again it had no manual. Now this is quite interesting, a boxed N64 controller. Now I think CEX still sell these for the same price regardless if they're loose or boxed, so definitely something to keep an eye out for, especially if you're an in-box N64 collector. Don't see these ones very often. Now, don't get me wrong, there was some absolutely incredible retro here in Oxford, but so far I hadn't found what I'd been looking for. I had seen a game on the CEX app which I'm sorely missing from my GameCube collection. Now, it seems that CEX these days put any GameCube game which is over the value of £20 in the glass cabinet of dreams. I just hadn't managed to find the game I was looking for yet. I was very tempted by 007 The World Is Not Enough, because this was in really nice condition, and also behind it was 2 copies of Pokemon Snap for some bizarre reason, but this is the game I was looking for, Battalion Wars for the GameCube, a game I'm sorely missing from my collection, and if this one's complete for 20 quid, I'm going to have to grab it. Much like the GameCube, I'm always trying to plug holes in my Wii U collection. I have just over 80 games for the console, and there is just over 200 physical games released here in the PAL region, and honestly, these days it's getting harder and harder to find games which I want for my collection, and unfortunately, nothing to add here in Oxford. I had checked the CEX app before we headed to Oxford, and honestly it didn't look like there was anything too exciting in the PlayStation 3 section, but you never know, it's always worth a look in case something has just been bought in. Uncharted 2 for the Essentials here. I'm not really sure which of the PlayStation 3 Essentials range are rare, so if you know, let me know in the comments down below. Now unfortunately there wasn't anything too exciting here in the Xbox 360 section, but stick around for the next CEX store, as if the app is to be believed, there's an absolute banger in there. And I'm really trying to fill the gaps in my Xbox 360 collection. That's because the Xbox Online Store closes for the 360 in July. And mark my words, a lot of these games are going to go up in value and get harder and harder to find. So now is the time to plug those 360 gaps. Our next stop is Aylesbury, and I'm super excited for this store because I checked the app and they have some absolutely banging retro in stock, as well as an Xbox 360 game which I've been trying to find for ages. This game is very hard to find. It's getting slowly more expensive, and honestly I want to grab this one before it becomes even more expensive, but I hope it's in good complete condition. As you can see, some absolutely fantastic Dreamcast games here, but hiding at the back is a game which I've been looking for ages. Batman Returns, but more importantly, with manual. I think I've tried to pick this up multiple times from CEX, but every time it doesn't have the manual. So let's hope this one's in good condition, as honestly, I need this game. Now, I would say in the grand scheme of CEX, Aylesbury is a fairly large store, and I would say about 2/3 of the store is video games. So only about 1/3 of the store is DVDs and Blu-rays. There's always going to be tons of these in CX. I don't really look through them very often, but let me know, do I need to be hunting through the DVDs? Let's head straight to the Xbox 360 section on the hunt for this game, which I want to grab before it gets even more expensive. No, it's not the Amazing Spider-Man. That game's actually strangely come down recently, which is a good surprise, to be honest. And another good surprise is the selection of Xbox 360 games we have here in Aylesbury. All around the country, these Xbox 360 sections are getting smaller and smaller, but this is a fairly sizable selection and has some absolute bangers, including this game right here. But this is what I mean about the condition of a game. This is rough. Splatterhouse, a £40 Xbox 360 game, and look at the state of this one. Imagine picking this up in a CEX lottery and this falling through your letterbox. Absolutely gutted by this one, and for 40 quid it can stay on the shelf. A little bit disheartened from the Xbox 360 section, I headed to the PlayStation 3 selection, and these are the games you want to pick up now while they're cheap. The exclusive games. Games that are only available on one console. Games such as the Ratchet and Clank franchise. Because trust me, in years to come, it is games like these which are going to demand the highest price, so get them now while they're cheap. But one of the weirdest things about Aylesbury was that all of their best retro steelbooks and Evercade games were hidden behind the counter. I can understand the need to keep these behind lock and key, but why not put them in the glass cabinet of dreams? There was an incredible selection of steelbooks, retro games, PlayStation 1 games, even a massive selection of Evercade games, and honestly, this is one of the best retro sections I've seen for a while. Our final stop, this time on the crazy world of CEX, is the picturesque waterways of Hemel Hempstead. Now, we weren't expecting to stop here, so I hadn't checked the CEX app, so I have no idea what to expect, so let's see what's in store. Now, I very nearly missed this hiding in the window. One of the mintiest boxed OG Xboxes I've ever seen. That is an absolutely iconic box, and it was in absolutely amazing condition, and I was hopeful inside it was going to be some really cool bits. Heading over to the glass cabinet of dreams, we have a really good selection of Evercade games here. Now, I've been slowly building my Evercade collection by picking these games up in CEX. That's because more often than not, CEX sell these games for cheaper than anyone else, but the hardest part is just remembering which ones you have. But every single one of these cartridges is an absolute goldmine, whether to go back and play some of your favourite games or to discover some of the best retro and retro-inspired video games ever made on the Evercade. Now, here we have something that caught me by surprise, and no, it is not the fact that we are seeing another 2 copies of 007 The World Is Not Enough for the N64 boxed. It is strange though that we are seeing 3 copies of that game over the 3 CEX stores we have been to. It is in fact a happy surprise that Paper Mario and the 1,000-Year Door is now under £100. This is a GameCube game I have had on my want list for the longest time, And it's not very often that GameCube games go down in value. I'm guessing it's because this is getting a re-release on the Switch, but honestly, I need to grab this one soon. Now, I spoke about PlayStation 3 exclusives earlier in this episode, and this is one which is already expensive. God of War Trilogy for the PlayStation 3 is already up to £90, and honestly, because this is the only way to play all three of the original God of War games in HD, this one is only going to get more expensive. I had a quick peruse of the Wii U and the GameCube sections here in Hemel Hempstead, but here's the problem. These are two sections in pretty much every CEX store that I go to now, which are just getting smaller and smaller. And honestly, if you decide to start collecting now for the Wii U and the GameCube, it's going to be a very hard hill to climb. A pretty decent selection of games here for the OG Xbox. Some really good titles here. A lot of the games are around the £15 or £20 mark, so some of the more uncommon titles. And again, this is a console which a lot of people have slept on and is getting harder to find good games for. And by good games, I mean games that are not backyard wrestling. There goes the neighbourhood. I'm a wrestling fan, but it ain't great. Nothing much to see here in the PlayStation 3 section, but I always have a look, as honestly the PlayStation 3 has so many hidden gems, and like I said earlier in this episode, keep an eye out for those exclusives. You can still pick up some of these games pretty cheap, including some of the Ratchet and Clank games, but honestly, don't sleep on these. Two last things before we leave Hemel Hempstead. First off, this copy of Shadow of the Colossus for the PlayStation 2. Because this comes in a cardboard sleeve, this one is getting harder and harder to find in decent condition. So if you find it, grab it. Secondly, this Jurassic Park arcade machine looks absolutely amazing, but unfortunately it wasn't working. So I guess in the future, I'm going to have to make a return trip to Hemel Hempstead. But for now, we are on the return trip to Norfolk and off to my local CEX here in the fine city of Norwich. That's because using the CEX app, I've had a stock alert on a game which I have never seen in stock. And I could not believe this was in stock in my local CEX store. And I wasn't going to play the CEX lottery. I was heading straight there and hoping to find it. And when I say straight there, I am going straight to the source. This is a PlayStation 3 game which I have never seen in stock. It is a spin-off of an absolute cult classic movie, and I have to find it. Now, I will give you a clue which game I am looking for. It begins with an I. So, we're going to be looking in the I section because, of course, all of the games in CEX are in alphabetical order. But I'm starting to panic a little bit now as I can't see it straight away. And I'm wondering, maybe somebody's picked it up, put it somewhere else. Maybe it's got hidden behind some of these other games. But this I section is very, very small. And I'm like, where is this game? There is a second game which also came in stock, which I'm hoping to find, and that doesn't seem to be there. And that game begins with a W. But then I started thinking to myself, okay, this game is worth over £20. Maybe it's in the Glass Cabinet of Dreams. It's a very rare game, so maybe they want to display it for everyone to see. But I cannot see any PlayStation 3 games in the Glass Cabinet of Dreams here, let alone the game I'm looking for. Then I came across one of the games I'm looking for, Wipeout here. This is a game I've been looking for a very long while, but it's not the super rare game which has brought me to CEX today. I'd kind of given up hope, but then at the counter, waiting to go on the shelves, we have the rare PS3 game. Here we are then, back in the games room from 3 brand new CEX stores, and we managed to pick up some absolute bangers for the collection, including first off from Oxford, this GameCube game which I needed for my collection, Battalion Wars. Now here's the thing, I've been collecting for the GameCube for absolutely years, and I have the majority of games which I want on the GameCube, but this was a game I still needed, and luckily this one hasn't got too expensive yet. It's only £20, and as soon as I saw this in Oxford and checked to see inside if it had the manual and was in good condition, I knew I had to grab it. Sadly, it didn't have the scratch code, but for 20 quid in this condition, this was a certified GameCube banger. Our next stop was Aylesbury, and it'll come as a surprise to no one I did not pick up that copy of Splatterhouse. That thing was rough. I'm kind of surprised CEX took that as trade-in. If not, I'm surprised they didn't just reprint the cover on that game, as honestly, the cover was just too far gone. But it wasn't all doom and gloom. I did manage to pick up this absolute banger for the Mega CD, Batman Returns with manual. This is in absolutely fantastic condition, and it is getting very rare that you see Mega CD games in CEX, and for 35 quid this is a game I've been after for absolutely ages. This is without a doubt one of the best games for the Mega CD and the best way to play Batman Returns. Now, normally I would be complaining about the amount of stickers on the games I pick up from CEX, but this sticker is very special, and this sticker definitely makes it sicker. Check this out, a sticker from the marketing department of Sega. And if you did not return this game, you were fined £50, which back then must have been a lot of money. This definitely makes this even cooler, and one I'm so happy to add to my Mega CD collection. Finally, from Hemel Hempstead, we have another Evercade cartridge to cross off the list. This game right here, Indie Heroes Collection 1. And I love these indie collections from Evercade. It is a great way to experience some of the best indie games available right now. And most of these games I've never played before, and I can't wait to experience some of these for the very first time. One game which I have played on here, and the main reason I wanted to pick up this collection, is Flea. This is one of the most addictive yet infuriating indie games I've ever played, and honestly, this on the Evercade is one of the best ways to experience it. As a collector and a massive Evercade fan, I would say there is nowhere better to pick up these carts than CEX. That's because more often than not, this is the cheapest place to pick up these carts, and it is worth grabbing them now while they're cheap, because once these carts go legacy, they get a lot more expensive. Legacy means they are no longer making physical copies of these carts, and it drives the price through the roof. So grab games like the Indie Collection 1 now while they're cheap. Finally, as is tradition here on the crazy world of CEX, we visited my local CEX store here in the fine city of Norwich, and I was on the hunt for one game in particular, and this right here shows the importance of using the CEX app as a stock checker, and more importantly, setting up stock alerts. I have been trying to find this game for absolutely ages. I could not believe my luck when I got an alert saying this game right here, Iron Sky Invasion, was in stock in my local CEX store. I went straight away as I could not believe this game was in stock. As of recording this video, there is no copies of this game anywhere in any CEX store. This is a game you do not see very often. I wouldn't say it's the greatest game of all time, but Iron Sky is one of my favourite films ever made. It is absolutely hilarious. It is a fantastic film, and I just had to play the game based on that movie. Again, it might not be the greatest game of all time, but this is a game you do not see very often, and it just shows the importance of using the CEX app, and more importantly, the CEX stock alert. There we have it then, folks. That is 3 more CEX stores crossed off the list of the frankly hundreds which I still have left to visit all around the world. But I want you to let me know in the comments down below, what is your best CEX stock alert win? You have to be super quick when these alerts come out, so let me know if you were the fastest what your best find was using the CEX stock alert. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and who knows, maybe next time I'll be visiting your local CEX store here on the crazy world of CEX. See you soon!